this is Henk. Welcome to another edition of the Skull Session. And today, my guest is Ben Monroe. Is that correct?
Yep, you got it.
All right. All right. What do you got going on, Ben?
Oh, hey, Dan. Nice to meet you. First of all, it's always fun connecting with new folks via the medium of our shared love of horror and all things spooky. So, what have I got going on? I'm an author from the San Francisco Bay Area. You can see my website up there somewhere. I don't know. There we go. benmonroe.com. I've got a new novel came out earlier this year, The Seething. Grab a copy of that. Hopefully that's. Oh gosh, I can't even see it. There you go. The Seething. Summer-soaked lake time or lake town horror set in the California mountains, slithery lake monsters and weird ghostly apparition-y kind of things going on. Just came out earlier this year, released in March. It's been doing pretty well. People who have read it seem to enjoy it. I've got a bunch of short stories that have come out in the last couple of years, and that's basically me in a nutshell. I'm a horror author.
Are the slowly weird creatures kind of like Lovecraft inspired, like the weird tentacle, all sorts of maybe lots of teeth, lots of eyes?
Not quite a Shoggoth, but that's what you're going for.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'm very much inspired by Lovecraft. You know, when I started writing the thing, I was actually thinking about one of my favorite Lovecraft stories, The Color Out of Space, and various films and different iterations of
I was
that
actually
I've seen.
surprised that the recent movie with Nicolas Cage was pretty good.
You know, I actually haven't seen it yet.
It's pretty good. Watch it. There's a couple things where you're like, okay, they kind of updated the story. Like, there's kind of a goth kid, this like Nicolas Cage's girl, and
Right.
she's like his daughter, and she's I mean, she can work it on topic. I don't think she actually does work it on topic, but other than a couple things like that, it's actually it's a good creepy story.
Well, I love the original story. I read it, I don't know, 40 something years ago, probably. And I've seen different film versions of it. It was The Curse, I think, came out with Will Wheaton back in the 80s. I haven't seen the new one. That's like perpetually on my watch list. I always joke that the problem with movies and books is just when you think you've read them all and you're caught up, some jerks come along and write a bunch of new ones. So, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, well, it's like they're often spurts. It seems like there's spurts of like really good stuff, and then there's kind of a dearth of anything worth reading or watching for a while. And then all of a sudden, I remember there's a spurt when a bunch of French horror movies came out. There was like Inside and Martyrs and Frontiers, and and then it
High
kind of did
tension and
off.
stuff like that, right?
Well, High Tension wasn't that. I mean, it was that era, but it wasn't like directly from France.
I thought it was, but I'll take your word for it.
I think High Tension is Australia.
Maybe I'm mixing up with something else, but
Right.
no, I totally get it. Remember, there was that period, like in the mid first decade of the 21st century, like 2005, 2008. It was not only all those horror reboots; it was The Hill That Have Eyes and Friday the 13th, all that. But I just remember all the movies were brown, and I couldn't figure that out. It's like
I
they
thought
put a
the
sepia.
remake of The Hills Have Eyes was actually very good. I enjoyed it
Yeah,
more than the original. Although all the Friday the 13th and I mean, obviously they weren't good. Like the originals were good. Although Friday the 13th, I would refer to Jason as the best character in the worst movies. Because he's like this awesome undead zombie, but he's always like
right.
they're always like horrible scripts.
Right. Yeah, that was the series that kind of went off the rail pretty fast.
Right. Well, I don't. I
Anyway,
remember I was kind of disappointed because being a big horror fan, I've had people buy me stuff all the time, and I remember somebody gave me Crystal Lake Memories, which is like the whole
oh yeah,
the Friday the 13th franchise, and I was like kind of excited to delve into it a little bit. And I remember I think John Cunningham is the first director, and his
yeah.
whole mission was he goes, how can like right now Halloween's making a lot of money. How can I rip off Halloween and not get sued? That was the
I
whole
remember
thing.
hearing that. Yeah, I think it was Sean Cunningham. I remember hearing that him or the producer of Friday the 13th actually trademarked the name and took out ads like in Variety for coming soon. The next Halloween. Before they had a script, before they even started writing the thing, they were just like that bandwagon's. Jump on it quick. If we're gonna make some money, we got to do it now. Yeah, and actually that takes me back to my book, The Seething. It is kind of got that weird, creepy, small town summer vibe, Friday the 13th lake kind of thing. Um, and I actually, it's funny. I had a thought years ago. Like I was thinking about the Friday the 13th franchise and how Jason keeps coming back and killing these camp counselors, and doing Jason stuff. And one of the things I was thinking about was like, well, why? Why is he doing it? Why is he so bent on keeping people away from that lake, right? And what if there was something even worse in the lake that Jason was protecting, that Jason was trying to keep people from finding out about? So that was.
You're doing a deeper dive into psychology than I'll bet any of the writers did.
I think I thought about it for probably 15 minutes, which could
Right.
be. So, but yeah, no. So I kind of was thinking about the whole idea of Crystal Lake, and wow, what if there's something worse in there? And then a few summers ago, you can actually see the lake in the picture back there. That's
Right.
the lake where I had the moment of inspiration for the book. I was hiking around it. It's like a 10-mile hike around one afternoon in the middle of summer. We were having one of those Northern California drought years, and the water level kept getting like lower and lower and lower until piers that people would fish off of were resting on dry ground. The water was almost gone. This it is a man-made lake. It's a reservoir back from the 1920s or something.
Okay.
Um, and I started thinking, wow,
Mhm.
if there was a monster in that lake, it's a lot closer to the surface now. It would be a lot easier
Yeah, that's a
for
good
it to
point. Yeah.
get people. And also, if there was some kind of sentient thing living in that lake and its ecosystem was being destroyed, was being, the water was literally evaporating, what might it do to try to get out, to try to go find someplace else to exist? And so a lot of that, the Crystal Lake stuff and the weird thoughts about the lake monster, all kind of bubbled up into this book.
Yeah. No, that sounds interesting. Just as a side note, I know that there was like a drought in, like, I think it was in New York, where the water got really low and they found all these
Uh-huh.
bodies.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
like the mob had killed all these people, and then all of a sudden,
Right.
but
The
yeah, so
concrete shoes only took them so far down, right?
I guess, yeah. Um, no, but I know that like a number of people use like a lake monster, although I never really thought about the like water getting low and them getting kind of desperate. Like, I think that's a kind of unique angle. Um, is that
Yes.
kind of what's going on yours? Like, there's a lake monster, and then people are, like the environments are changing a little bit, and like it's reacting to them.
Yeah, as you read the story, there's this thing you kind of find out more about it. It's a slow burn. I wrote it specifically to be kind of a slow build story, and you discover
I
more
kind of
about
miss
this.
that. Like, I kind of miss like the more old school with the like slow burn that builds up to it. Like, now they
Yeah.
just want to jump in. It's like even
Well.
like if you look at like one of my favorite movies of all time is Evil Dead 2. And Evil
Uh-huh.
Dead 2, this slowly gets to the cabin. So it's kind of like, that one's not real slow, but there's still like, it does start out with like boom in your face, shock. You know, I mean,
Right.
they have stuff that grabs you, like little spooky stuff, but it doesn't really like, you don't get like the core like, anticipation of everything until later on, until it builds up, and I feel that's way better.
Well, I love those kind of stories. That's really been something I've always been drawn to. I was actually just recently, just for Halloween, I got together with two good friends of mine here in town, to watch a couple of Halloween movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not actually, John Carpenter's Halloween, but some Halloween themed films. And we settled on
Like Trick or
uh,
Treat, which is one of my favorites.
stuff like that. We actually, the second one we watched was Haunt. I don't know if you've seen
Okay.
that. It came out a couple
No.
years ago. I think it's on Netflix.
Is it
Really fun.
good?
I like it. I describe it as Saw meets a Spirit Halloween store. So,
Okay.
and then the first one we watched was the original Pumpkinhead,
Wait, awesome
and
movie. I love that
which
movie.
is it's a classic. Stan
Yeah.
Winston, coming off of creature designs from Aliens, directs this crazy monster film,
And I feel
and
like Lance Hendrickson is so underrated. He's such a good actor.
it was so good. He was so good as the grieving father, going to all these extremes to
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil things for anybody listening who might not have seen it, but go see it if you haven't. But it is a very slow burn film, right?
Don't see any of the later ones.
Yeah, no, I think I tried to watch the second one,
You,
Bloodlines. I never managed to finish it. But
yeah.
but in Pumpkinhead, what I was noticing, I hadn't watched it maybe 10 years or something, was how slow the buildup was. You got a little stinger, a teaser at the beginning that sets the tone. We know there's something weird going on in these backwoods. Um, and then you're introduced to the characters, you get to learn all about them. And then the bad thing happens. And you're like almost halfway into the movie before the old witch, makes the Pumpkinhead come back and start doing Pumpkinhead stuff. And
But I feel like it gives us so much more attention, like when it actually pops up. Because if you start out at the top, where do you go from there?
right, right. And that's one of the things I like doing when I'm writing, and I love reading that kind of story where it's a story about regular, relatable people you could understand, people maybe you're people like your neighbors, people just regular folks, um, who get thrown into this meat grinder of the horror story, and giving the characters time to live in their actual lives before you start throwing monsters at them. To me, makes the tension even that much higher because you've gotten to know these people. You come, maybe hopefully, hopefully you come to like these people, and when bad things start happening,
Or at
it
least
kind of
relate.
grabs you
Even if you don't
emotionally.
like them, you're like, I know that character.
Exactly, exactly. You can understand who these people are. They
Right.
have motivations. I always, the classic example of that I always think is King's Pet Cemetery,
Right.
where you get these people. They're a relatable family. The dad, even if you aren't a doctor, you get the dad, having this job as the new doctor at the university. Um, and by the time bad stuff starts happening in that book, you've gotten to know who all these characters are. You've got to relate to them, and you feel for them when bad stuff starts to happen. So I love
Yeah,
that
I
kind of
feel
thing.
that's one of his stronger tales. Like Stephen
Mm,
King, I think, was great, especially in the early days of like wrapping up a good story, and like I think got a little bit like too wordy later on. But I think like a lot of his early stuff, like Christine, Carrie, and
yeah.
Firestarter, and like Pet Cemetery, is like just it's a great horror story, snap horror story.
Oh yeah. I read a book of interviews with King a couple of years ago. It was probably published in the late '80s, and it was like a collection of magazine art interviews he had done for a number of places. And as I was reading it and reading this, 40, 50 years into his career, it's hard to believe King's had a career for 50 years. um, I kept noticing every once in a while people would ask him the question, is there anything you've ever written that's too scary and you're never going to publish it? Oh gosh, I have this story, this book I wrote, and it's just horrible. It's the worst. I'm never going to publish this thing. It's too much. And you're reading along, and over a while you realize he's talking about Pet Cemetery. He wrote the book and thought it was too awful to actually publish. And then of course someone finally convinced him to, and now it's seen as a classic. I think
Yeah.
it's a classic anyway.
Well, his breakout book was Carrie, and he like
Yeah,
tore that up and threw it away. And his wife dug it out of the trash can
right.
and convinced him he had to
Finish
use
this.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great one too.
yeah. I like the movie. I like the story, and like I did his on writing seminar. It's like an audiobook seminar, and he
Uh-huh.
talks about that. He talks about being like a broke, starving, whatever guy, and like he submitted it, and they took it, and they said, "Yeah, we're going to give you $250,000." He's like, "What? Can you repeat that?"
Yeah, and that's like 1970s money, so
Yeah,
that's life changing.
yeah. Nobody pays out for books anymore either.
No,
So, yeah.
sadly, no.
Yeah, no, it's like I wanted to be a comic artist when I started out like years ago, like getting ready with DC and Marvel and stuff. And I remember the going rate at the time was $150 a page,
Right.
which was pretty low, especially considering the level of detail I do. But I was talking to a comic like a comic publisher just a couple weeks ago, and she said, "Oh, now the most you pay for a page is $8."
Oh my gosh.
I was like, how do you pay your rent? And what they do is they you know they basically go to like Venezuela or somewhere where the cost of living is really cheap, and they digitally send it in, and they're like,
Right.
oh well, $8 is fine to me. But I remember
That's
when I
crazy.
interviewed with DC Comics, they want you to live in Brooklyn. You know, I remember they pay you
Right.
like $23,000 a year. It's like you can't fucking live in Brooklyn for that amount.
Yeah, under a bridge with the trolls, I
Yeah,
suppose. But yeah, no, I don't know what Brooklyn rents are, but I live near San Francisco, and I'm assuming they're very similar. So yeah, no, that's
they're
crazy.
pretty high. I mean, I
Yeah,
live in New York. They're pretty high. I lived in Brooklyn for like 6 years. They're pretty high.
nice.
But all right, so let's get back to your work. So, do you have like stories that inspired you, like movies or books, or like is there kind of like, I'm not saying that you copied them. I'm just saying that they like, like if I see like a great movie, that'll convince me, hey, I need to work on my story. So like,
Right.
are there things that kind of like drove you along?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've it's hard to draw one specific influence, but I've always been a reader. I've always loved movies. I was actually a film major in college. I love movies that much. I spent 4 years of my life focusing on that. Um, and I can go back to things like reading the classics illustrated, the old comics versions of things. I remember I had a classics illustrated issue of the Odyssey when I was a kid that I would just pour over. I would read that. Yeah, 4 or 5 years old. um, I remember specifically really loving the monsters. The Cyclops and the Hydra and all that. All the Hydras
Well,
from
that's what
Jason
makes it.
Aaron's.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Right. And from there I started getting into. We had a great, uh, oh gosh, like a monster movie host. I don't know if they really had. Well, I guess they still have some hosts. Joe Bob was one of them. We had Bob Wilkins back in the day, back in the Oakland area when I was a kid, and he would show all the classics, the Universals, Hammer, and weird stuff, Robot Monster, the amazing two-headed transplant and stuff like that. All the Harryhausen films I would love. Star Wars, of course. I grew up in the Star Wars era, so I can't think of any one specific story that's maybe influenced something I've written, but just, amalgamation of everything I've ever written or watched or experienced has definitely come out in stuff that I've written, I'm sure.
Do you have like, is it your first novel, or you have a bunch of novels, or you have a bunch of short stories? Like, what led up to this?
The Seething is my second novel. My first was actually a board game tie-in. I don't know if you might be familiar with the board game Cthulhu Wars. It's a
Of course, yeah.
post-apocalyptic. It's like a post-apocalyptic Lovecraft
Yeah,
thing.
I'm a huge
Um,
Lovecraft fan, so almost anything Lovecraft I would know. Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, so my book, In the Belly of the Beast and Other Tales of Cthulhu Wars, was a collection of 8 short stories and then a novel packed into the back. And then between that and the Seething, I wrote a couple dozen short stories. Most of them have been published, here and there. And actually, a lot of the short stories I wrote while I was writing the Seething. I would notice. So I'm what they call a pantser. I don't really go into a story with a detailed outline. I usually have some idea of my characters, a general idea of the setting, and kind of where the plot's going. I don't say I know what the plot is, but I know there's this monster who, as we talked about, a monster who's trying to find a new home, or get out of his horrible environment. And I kind of knew what the end goal of the book was, and then I start writing to find out what happens along the way. And yeah, I admit there are plenty of times during the writing of the Seething where I wasn't quite sure where I was going with it. So I would usually stop at that point, work on some short stories, let the Seething percolate for a while, and then at some point I'd have oh crap, I know exactly where this is going now. Jump back into it and keep the
Yeah, no,
story
that's
moving forward.
exactly what I do. I'm like, I don't force it. I'm like, when I get to like a stopping point, I'm like, I'll just take a break and come back. And I
Right.
know a lot of people do that. I know that Stephen King, initially at least, he was a proponent of like, just get as many words down as you can. You can edit them later. I don't think like that.
Right.
Is there like some work out there that kind of like how like people ask you to compare yourself, and you're like, well, it's not the same, but if you were to compare it to something, say it's kind of like this, or it's kind of, if you enjoy this, you'll enjoy my work.
So I kind of initially was pitching this book as The Shining meets Jaws. If that clicks your buttons there. Part
Well,
of
The
the thing
Shining is
is,
my favorite movie ever. So
there you go. So the main reason I was comparing it to The Shining was the sense of isolation up in the small mountain town. It is, of course, summertime. It's not the dead of winter like in The Shining. And one of the characters, the teenage daughter of this family, has got some sort of Danny-like precognition ability to find things and see things and glean facts that the rest of us can't. And the monster in the lake kind of latches onto that, finds that this person could be a suitable host for itself as it's trying to escape its its environment. So that, yeah, the Seething meets Jaws, and then I was actually also pitching it as oh gosh, what was that movie? The Beach House, which came out a couple years ago. Not the one with Sandra Bullock. I think it was a Sandra Bullock one, but one. I don't remember the actors, but it came out just 3 or 4 years ago, which was also kind of a riff on the Color Out of Space, which of course I watched, while I was almost done writing the CD. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so similar in tone and style.
well, people have riffed off Lovecraft's work forever. So
Oh,
or, yeah,
yeah, it's a noble cause.
right. Well, I mean, if you're gonna riff off somebody like Lovecraft or Poe, you may as well go to the OGs.
Oh, exactly. Pull out a little Blackwood or M.R. James here and there.
So when you tell your tale, I'm a little bit curious. Like everybody has like a different way of expressing it. Like whether it's kind of like the American Psycho style or the Cormac McCarthy style, or it like everyone like some people love to break the fourth wall, some people don't. Some people like first person, some people like third person. Um, some people like to like it. Like I don't know if you read the book Lucifer's Hammer, which is really a book, but
Oh,
like
years ago, yeah.
yeah, it's like 300 something pages, but the first 100 pages are just backstory. And then a giant meteor slams into the earth, and then everything, goes nuts. But
Right.
like that 100 pages really builds it up. So I'm just wondering what your approach is because people have all these different approaches.
Um, no, that's a great question. So the Seething. Sorry, I gotta drink a little water here. Maybe this is a good note to to edit out. Sorry. So the Seething, yeah, it's a pretty standard narrative. I use oh gosh, maybe a Hitchcock technique. I was thinking, Psycho is one of my favorite films, and I love starting. The Seething starts in one direction and then shifts. It's got kind of a Janet Leigh gets killed in the shower twist, at the first chapter. I'm trying to set it up like it's going somewhere, and then everything changes. Um, and then the rest of the book is told, from a pretty normal perspective, but I change characters. Each chapter follows a different character's story. I think you've probably got four main characters that we follow throughout the course of the book. Um,
And
and
are they detailed to first person, third person? Like, you know, how do you focus on them? Is it like through their heads?
Oh,
Is it like
it's basically it's all third person.
okay.
You're reading what they're thinking, what they're feeling. It's nobody coming along saying, "I went to the store and a zombie ate my brains." You know, it's a pretty regular narrative. And one of the things I also tried to do, I think I kind of mentioned earlier, getting you to know the characters, is we have that stinger opening, and then the next two or three chapters are sort of just establishing who these characters are, introducing side characters that are going to become important later down the road. um, and I think by about chapter 3 or 4, that's when I really start jumping from one character to the next, so you can see this story unveiling in the town and around the town from different perspectives, which was fun for me because each one of the characters, even though I wasn't writing first person, I kind of wrote in. I got into their head, kind of wrote in the style of what they were thinking, what they were experiencing as all this was going along. So that was kind of fun. A pretty, well, I guess the term is diverse cast of characters. I like thinking about, okay, this person would have this perspective, and this person would have that perspective, and that was a lot of fun to write.
Okay. And how long is your book?
Oh, I think it's 375 pages.
Okay.
roughly. It's about 120,000 words if I remember.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it depends on whether you use like 11-point font, 12-point font. I'm not,
Right.
but when people write a book and they put it out, they kind of use different marketing strategies and different ways to pitch it. Like, were you thinking of doing like a book trailer? Were you gonna like maybe submit it to like Netflix or anything like that?
Well, I mean, if Netflix wants to give me a big pile of money to make a movie out of it,
Right.
that'd be awesome. Like I said earlier, I was a film major in college. I love movies, and I've also got kids who like to eat. So yeah, so big pile of money is fun. Now, as far as the marketing goes, I've been doing a lot of fun podcasts like this. I've been meeting a lot of cool horror people, which is awesome. I've been going to small events in the area. We did. I'm a member of the Horror Writers Association, and last year we went to the Bay Area Book Festival, which is a big literary festival here in the Bay Area. As it sounds like it takes place in Berkeley. And I was actually fortunate enough to be asked to moderate a panel about what's going on in horror these days, and that was a lot of fun. Francesca Maria, Jessica Johns, and Nick Medina were on the panel, all of whom are kind of up and coming horror authors. So that was really fun getting a chance to talk to them as well.
Really awesome. Do you like Killer Con or Dallas Author Con or SugaCon?
I haven't really delved much into cons outside of my area.
Okay.
It always, and I'd love to go. It just always seems like such a grand endeavor to get all the way there and figure out what I'm going to do once I get there. So I guess as far as conventions go, I'm kind of taking it slow right now.
Well, those feel a little bit better as far as they're like marketing towards like authors and readers, like networking with authors and like marketing to
Right,
readers. And I've done stuff like Monster Media, and that's more like, hey, we sell DVDs, hey, we sell plushies, hey, we sell shirts and hats. So
right,
you're kind of
right,
like thrown in the mix with everyone else. But these feel like they're more like author oriented. But some of them like I did SogaCon, and I did a panel at SogaCon, and it's weird because like if you have a vendor booth at SogaCon, you're like the convention doesn't look like it's that well attended. But they do a panel and it's flooded with people. So people just go
right.
there to like, get inspiration to meet people that, the table wasn't that expensive, but it was kind of pointless.
Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely something to think about. As far as conventions go, are you there to sell right then, or are you there to build up your presence as an author?
Right.
I think StokerCon, from everything I've heard, uh, seems like the latter. You're there to network. You're there to meet other authors. There is, from what I understand, I haven't been. It's in San Diego this year. I might actually go this time. There is the opportunity to sell stuff, but I wonder if I would
Yeah,
be
that's true. It's in San Diego because I went to the Pittsburgh one, and that one I can drive to, but there's
nice,
no way I can drive to the San Diego one. So I don't know.
right?
You should probably go check that. Like if you get a table there, I think it's like 150 for the weekend. It's not
Right.
that expensive.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like, is it more valuable for me to go and try to sell books at the con, or is it more valuable for me to go and attend authors and be on panels and meet other authors? So that's a
I
good
don't think
question.
it's a problem
What's the
if you go
focus?
there and you get like a table and you sell books, and then you also do some panels. Like your
Right,
presence there, and you're basically paying what you pay as an entry fee, anyways. But
right,
the nice thing will be like they can also see your shit. You're not just like walking around getting advice. So
right.
that might help a little bit, and then people
Yeah,
will see your table and they'll come up and talk to you and start networking and stuff like that.
yeah. Definitely worth thinking about. I mean, like I said, it's San Diego. It's here in California. It's still like it'd be like a 10-hour drive to get down there. Maybe 8 if I drove fast,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
but it's doable. People always forget what a long state California is. I mean, if you think of
Yeah.
the entirety of New England,
No,
you're almost
I was thinking like within an hour of you. It'd definitely be
no,
within,
no.
yeah.
San Jose, that'd be easy. San Diego, no. It's I know. Well, it took 6 hours to drive to Disneyland last time I took the kids there. So,
Wow.
and it's San Diego is still below that, but it's doable.
Well, SugaCon in Pittsburgh was like 8 hours to me. Like I live in New York, so
Right.
it seems like they're right next to each other. But PA is a huge city too, so
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, man. So, how can people get a hold of you? How can they give you money? How can they see your updates? Like, are you on social media, like your Facebook
Yeah,
page and TikTok
I
page?
am. I don't have
Little
TikTok. I'm a little,
dresses.
yeah, I'm a little intimidated by TikTok. But honestly, the best thing to do right now is go to my website, benmonroe.com. If you check in the About section, I have links to all my current social media accounts. What I'm finding lately is that the social media landscape is so turbulent that I'm never sure which account is going to survive. So
And
somebody
it
watching
changes
this,
all the time. Like this was a popular thing last week. This week is like threads or something, or vines or whatever.
exactly, exactly. So, again, go to benmonroe.com/about, I think, and you'll find whatever I happen to be on right now. You'll find links to it there, rather than me telling you to go to Blue
Are
Sky
you
or
on
Threads or
X or
whatever.
Goodreads?
I'm on Goodreads. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Threads, and I'm kind of half-heartedly on Instagram and X. Instagram, it's so much effort to take photos of things, and X, I kind of let my account go fallow a couple months ago. I haven't been updating there very much. We'll see.
I know a lot of people they talk about like, well, it was Twitter and then Twitter, X, whatever, and they talk about like as like the big thing, but like I don't know, I see Instagram as being more the thing that everyone looks at.
Yeah,
Um
I seem to be the few times I post on Instagram, I seem to get pretty good engagement there.
okay.
And Threads, I actually honestly signed up for Instagram only because you had to have it to get on Threads. I'm like, okay, fine. Um, so I'm using that one too. But again, anybody watching this a year from now, who knows what I'm going to be on?
Well, I find actually Amazon has like a very wide focus. Like you get a lot of views on Amazon. I'm not Amazon, I mean Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. I should actually do like a Facebook public page. I have my friends one, but I don't have a. It just seems like one more thing to have to maintain. I've got my blog, I've got all these social media things.
I mean,
When you find
I
time to
hear
write,
you. Yeah, no, I hear you. I have a blog too. I have a website too. Like I write too. I do a podcast too. It's like you're right. It is a
right?
lot, but it does actually lead somewhere. Nothing in life
I
is
hope so.
easy.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I tell people. I tell people everything in life hurts. I should know. I was married.
Yeah,
Oh, do you have a Amazon authors page?
yeah. I have an Amazon Office page. Go find the Seething, and you can follow me on Amazon as well. I do, since a lot of what I've been doing lately has been anthologies. Every time I have an anthology coming up, or I'm in an anthology, I always make sure to let Amazon know. So if you follow me on Amazon, you'll get alerts, whenever my new books are out. And if you
Okay.
follow me on Goodreads, I've got it set so you get alerts when I have a new blog post going up, which I don't really do that frequently, but I should do more. It's again, when do you find time to write stories when you're, writing all this other stuff? I just want
No,
to write
I know it's a
stories.
struggle. It's a struggle. Yeah. So, all
It
right.
is
So
what
the
it is.
seating is out right now.
It's out right now. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you buy books. If they don't have it in the store, it's set up with a program called Ingram Spark. So any bookstore in the world can order a copy of it. If you
Okay,
don't like
awesome.
Amazon, get it
And they
somewhere
should
else.
look at your website for updates.
Yep, benmonroe.com. That's the
Okay.
one.
All right. Well, I think that's it. Do you have anything else you want to promote? Anything else you want to tell people to check out?
Read more horror. As Bob
Yeah.
Wilkins used to say, keep America strong, watch horror movies.
Yeah, nice. I haven't heard that quote, but it's a great quote. But
Yeah,
all right, thanks, man. Thank you for doing this. I appreciated it. And we
anytime,
definitely need
Dan.
more voices in horror, and it really helps when people kind of know their territory. Like I remember one guy was like, "Yeah, I started doing horror, but before that, I used to do porn, like porno stories and magazines." I was like, "You're not
Was that
really a
Ursula
horror
Lewis
guy.
or
You're just like maybe there's some money in this or whatever." But
yeah, this
yeah,
once again, there's that bandwagon going by, right?
right. But all right, man. Well, I'm gonna end it with that. But thank you.